Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for Cold Hard Sports Talk with your hosts, Matty B and Woodsy.
Alrighty, time for our interview today, and we are joined by a former WHLer, MJHLer, university hockey player, Mount Royal University to be exact, and also played in Scotland for a brief period of time. Emerson Hrynyk is our guest today, joining us from BC.
Yeah, I'm in Victoria right now.
How's it going, man? Thanks for taking the time.
No, things are good. Thanks for having me on.
First, being a BC boy, just maybe tell us a bit about, hockey growing up in BC. Obviously, when you were younger, you decided to go play junior B for a year as opposed to maybe AAA. Just take us through kind of your decision process as you kind of played hockey in your younger years in BC.
Yeah, no, I grew up in Penticton, so kind of a smaller town, but a pretty good hockey town. They got, the V's are a well-known junior A organization. They do things right. And then obviously there's the Okanagan Hockey School and Academy. So growing up, hockey was pretty big there, even going to lots of Panthers games. From the decision to go junior B, like Penticton was kind of a tier 2. It didn't really have, like, if you wanted to play major midget, you have to make the drive up to Kelowna. But I also wasn't good enough to really make that team when I was that age. So I remember I tried out, I think, for like 3 junior B teams, and 2 of them didn't get back to me at the time. So it would have been second year midget 16. And I went to Grand Forks. I think they're the worst team in the league. And they decided to bring me on and give me a shot. And it was a tough year. I think we went like 11-39 or something. So there was a lot of losing. But it was definitely a good development year. I mean, you're playing against, guys who are 20 and stuff when you're 16. So, but
you're listed here at 6'2", about 190 pounds. Were you that big, in your midget days, or was that something that kind of came along later in your career? Like, were you playing junior B while you're already the right size, or were you a bit smaller in those days?
No, I was 6'2". I kind of grew a little earlier, but the weight was probably more in the 180 range or something like that. Got to pump it up a little bit.
What was that experience to be on such like a bad team? You mentioned you guys were like last place. Like, did that just kind of give you kind of the calluses to, play the rest of your career, no matter how good the team was?
Yeah, it was tough. I mean, it was fun. Like, don't get me wrong. A lot of guys playing junior B, when you got like 19 and 20-year-olds and stuff, a lot of those guys, they're there to have a good time. So you definitely grow up quick. But yeah, the losing was tough. But like, for being a 16-year-old, I got a lot of opportunities. I got to play a bunch. And I mean, there's obviously some good players in the KIJHL is a pretty decent junior B league too.
137 PIMs that year. Was that kind of the start of being a bit more of a physical presence on the ice? Was there, what was the reasoning to, log in so many PIMs that year?
So I think they must have counted 10s then at the time.
Oh, okay.
I definitely, like, I wasn't as physical until like later on, just because I wasn't as big. But I did have most of the times when I fought in that, it was either you throw a big hit and you got to fight someone or something like that. But I'm pretty sure it was a 5 and a 10, so you really racked up the PIMs. And then I had another guy on my team, Brandon Watson, he was another 16-year-old, and we kind of said, anytime, if you're going to fight, like, we each got to fight. So sort of whenever he fought, I'd have to fight that game, or the same sort of thing.
Kind of like a Bash Brothers type of thing, or?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
After you're 16 there in BC, you go out and play for the Prince Albert Raiders. So some of our listeners will know who the Prince Albert Raiders are, just up the road from where I am. Just what was the decision to go to play in the dub with especially Prince Albert, who also wasn't the greatest at the time, if I'm not mistaken?
Yeah, no, they weren't the greatest team. So at the time I think it was 3, just like those letters out to like come to camp or whatever in the mail. And I also tried out for a few junior A teams, but I remember at the time I wanted to go to the West Side Warriors, kind of their West Kelowna now, their main camp. And the two letters I had were PG and PA, like two of the bottom teams. But PG's camp was the same time as Westside, so I was like, you know what, I'll go to PA's. It was before the Westside one, so I kind of, I didn't really think I was gonna make the team or anything. It was more, I'll go out there, like have a training camp, and it'll get me, in shape and not in shape, but like ready to go for the Westside one. And I remember even my dad calling out to PA just, to ask them. They're just like, oh, we send those letters out. Like, we don't really know, it's kind of, you pay to come to camp. So they grab some money. So they didn't really even know who I was at the time. And I remember showing up to the first meeting, and it's all kids who were like listed and drafted, and they all got their like Raiders gear that they've had from rookie camp and all this. And I'm just sitting there kind of don't know a single person. And the one guy who the first guy I met there and chatted to, I ended up having to fight him in I guess it would be like the final game of main camp or whatever. But yeah, Daniel Dale, I think he turned out to be a scrapper in the league for a while after that too.
Was that kind of your welcome to the league moment?
Welcome to the league was our first game, and we played at home against Brandon. At the time, Brandon was, I think, hosting the Mammers. So they had a pretty stacked team, and I remember something happened in front of the net, and I ended up, their tough guy, Jordan Hale, I think his name was, big guy, just pulled me out of a scrum and just started leaning into me and throwing rights, and it was kind of like, holy, this isn't junior B anymore.
Oh man, you got beat pretty good there, or did you manage to hold your own?
Nothing, like, it wasn't hurt or anything like that, yeah. But it was, I mean, he was a bigger guy, bigger than me, and it was for sure like kind of the first wake up call.
Just playing in PA itself, played there for basically a season and a little bit. Just what was it like to play, in PA? That barn is something else, and the atmosphere there is usually pretty good. Like, how cool was it to play there in a place with got a lot of history as well?
Yeah, no, it was. It's a really cool, the Art Hauser, really cool arena. I loved it there. Pretty much everywhere I played, I really enjoyed. But yeah, they're passionate about hockey there, and they've got some history and stuff, and the fans, like, they really care. But yeah, when we had when you get a big crowd in there, it can get loud. A smaller type building and an older building, so it was definitely fun, and they like kind of like the rougher hockey. So it was definitely a good place, and I had a great time there. Like my billet family, the Rat family, I lived with. His name was Horse Rat, and Darcy, and they were great people. Like, to this day, they come out to Penticton every summer with their whole family, 3 kids, and just really good people there, like, down to earth. And I noticed that out in Saskatchewan, and then even when I played in Manitoba, just everyone seemed so friendly.
And then you managed to go to Chilliwack, who is now
Victoria.
Well, they're Victoria. Yes, you're right. They're Victoria now. Was that a trade? Like, or was it, how did that sort of come to be? And do you remember getting traded if it was a trade?
Yeah, no. So my second year, I separated my shoulder literally the night before the BC swing, which was tough because, you go back to play Kelowna, which close to Penticton. So it was a tough one. So I kind of missed the whole entire, that whole trip, and then came back and kind of had a hard time getting in the lineup. And at the time, Chilliwack, I'm pretty sure they had 2 defensemen that went down for injury. So they were looking for someone, and they ended up trading for me. But I remember, I got a call from the GM to the house at like 6 p.m. at night, and like, okay, something's going on. The GM's calling you that time. You're either in trouble or you're getting traded. And yeah, I just got told, you're going out to Chilliwack. And the funny thing is, the kid I got traded for was a goalie, Cole Holowenko. And I knew that he was coming the other way, but he didn't know at the time who was going back. So I ended up talking to him, and he messaged me, and he's like, yeah, I'm coming to PA. Because he actually played minor hockey with me in Penticton, so we were buddies. And I was like, oh, I'm going the other way. Like, which for me, I was excited to go down to Chilliwack, right, in BC, a little closer to home and stuff. But I definitely remember landing there, and I got picked up at the airport. And I think they were on a tough stretch where they lost a few games. And the kid who picked me up was like, we're playing Portland, the Winter Hawks tonight. And they were stacked too at the time. Like Ryan, I think Johansson, Niederreiter, Sven Barchi. They had some good players. And he's just like, if we don't win tonight, we're going to like 2-a-day practices. And I'm just like, oh my God, like, what am I getting myself into here? Just landing in the morning, having to play a game that night. So you're like pretty tired. And we ended up beating them, like, I think it was like 8-2 or something like that. And like first night, and team party right there first. So I was just like, oh, this is great. Like, get in, beat the best team in the league, and we're having a party. So it was a pretty good start.
And just playing that season there and then going to the MJ the next year, did you kind of have a thought that you might be going to the MJ the next year or going to junior A the next year? What was kind of that summer and that year as you kind of switched to the junior A ranks?
Yeah, I kind of had a feeling like the end of the year, they the coach sat down and kind of gave you a year-end meeting, and he kind of led me to believe that was going to be hard for me to make the team the next year. They had some pretty good D-men there, and then some young guys coming up, like trying to think his name. He plays for Detroit now. But anyways, so I went into Victoria and like was
Joe
here
Hicketts.
Pardon me?
Was it Hicketts?
Yeah, it was Hicketts.
Oh, there you
so
go.
He was coming up the next year, and yeah. Anyways, played in Victoria, and then get released. And I mean, that was even a tough situation. I remember getting like you go up, we're like going up for practice, and then the coach calls you at the office. He says, "Yeah, we're letting you go." Blah blah blah. Come down, go back into the dressing room. All the boys are getting ready for practice, and then like the equipment manager just like takes the stuff that's not teams, like takes my stuff, and he's just packing it into a duffel bag in front of everyone. And it's just like, all right, well, see you boys, good luck, eh? And then I went back home to Penticton, kind of hung out for a bit, and I was talking to the V's at potentially just playing at home. And they were looking, Port Alberni picked up my rights, so they had to make a trade. And I was kind of waiting around. And there was another guy I played with, Blair Wentworth, who went out to Dauphin. And he was kind of in my ear, you know. I think they started off like 10-0 in the season. He's like, "You're a good team, and you know, as long as we do good here, you know, it's pretty fun. They let you kind of run as long as you give them results." And I decided, you know, to take a leap and head out to Dauphin, which at the time, looking back on it that year, I think Penticton lost like 3 games and won the RBC. So I was like, maybe I should have waited around and seen if I could have played at home and won an RBC. But Dauphin was definitely, that was a good time too. I enjoyed my time there, but some good times, some good stories from playing in Dauphin.
Was there a culture shock going to Dauphin?
Not really. Like, I mean, it was obviously different than playing in the Western League, and then like the hockey was good. The biggest thing, obviously, some of the rinks, like you're playing in some interesting spots, like Wayway-Sikapo and up in was it Opisquack Cree Nation, the Blizzard out of Nepal. So yeah, it was definitely interesting in like some of the rinks you're going to play in. But I mean, going to play in the PA was that was probably one of the craziest atmospheres I've ever played in my life. Like you go into this like little barn, and around the backside, there's no seating. It's kind of like boxes that are like right with the ice, so the people are right above you. And I guess Dauphin and them kind of have some history, so they don't really like each other. And we play them in the playoffs. Would have been, I think, my second year. And like sold out barn. We're getting police escort out of the game. Like, you know, you got a police. We couldn't even go out through the front of the lobby. Like we went out the side exit, police car by the bus, letting us out. And like, it was wild. Like people are going crazy in there. Like I remember we were on a power play at one point, and the guy in the penalty box just took a box of pucks, threw them on the ice to stop the play, to like kill our momentum on the power play. Like, I'm not even kidding you. And then I think we would have been up there again because it went 7 games. And in the next game, out of the one corner there, they brought in like a frozen moose leg and threw it on the ice, and the same sort of thing while we're on the power play to get a stoppage, and the rest picking up this massive moose leg and dragging it off the ice. But I'm talking about people, they're sitting like wraps right around your bench. There's guys up there. There's a security guard. He's not doing nothing. But people
He's probably joining in, right?
Oh yeah. Like people are spitting down at you, throwing beer cans, like you're caged in on the bench, and there's kids there trying to get their fingers through the cage and reach out for your sticks. Like even before the game, you think there'd be like security. We're sitting in there kind of after our pregame talk, like getting, you know, it's kind of quiet. You're getting ready to play. And all of a sudden this little kid comes running in right into our dressing room, and he just starts chirping us and he's fingering us right in the room. And it's just like, holy hell, like what's going on? How did this kid get in the dressing room?
Man, a couple of tricks for the coach's playbook there, eh, Matt?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
The old throw moose leg on the ice during a PK.
Yeah.
They do that in Flin Flon after a win.
Yeah.
Like, what is going on up north here? Like,
oh yeah. No, it's crazy. But I mean, personally, I love that. Like going up there and knowing that the atmosphere is gonna get like, it definitely gets you ready for the game and excited to play, because there's nothing like playing in front of a bunch of fans, even if it's away fans, right?
Yeah. And the offense sort of picked up for you there. Was it just a matter of kind of like, a year older, a year better? Like you managed to get 20 and 59 your second year, 11 and 48. The offense seems to be getting there for you. Was it just a matter of being in kind of like a good situation in Dauphin?
Yeah, I was getting a little more opportunity. I was definitely getting to be like kind of like a top four defenseman there. We're mostly in the Western League. I was on the bottom pairing, and when you're in that position too, it's in the back of your mind. If you make a mistake or something, you could be getting scratched or sitting down. So you get to play a little more, and I definitely had a lot more confidence. And then I started to fill out. And I think I was better, like those last 2 years than I was when I was in the Western League, and even just handling and moving around the puck and stuff, and then getting the odd power play where not even on the blue line though, the coach would just throw me in front of the net, stand there and try and screen, cause a bit of a ruckus.
The Zdeno Chara model, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And you managed to get a deep run in the playoffs there with Dauphin in your 20-year-old season. Just how fun was that playoff?
Oh, that was a blast. I mean, that's a really good hockey community too. Like they got a really nice rink there. So it was pretty new when I was there, kind of like a horseshoe and then just like a walking level, but it was like sold out. Even we played, I think game 7, we played that OCN there. It would have been the second round. And it was like a sold out barn. So a few thousand people. And I mean, they had 2 busfuls of people. And when we ended up beating them, like there's a video online, we're celebrating down in our end, and like their sections there, and like you just see garbage cans, pucks, cowbells, they throwing everything at us, like just going crazy. But Dauphin, they're definitely a hockey city for sure, and that was really fun, that run. Just like in a small community like that, everyone kind of gets behind the team. And I mean, it was tough. I think we lost, I think it was game 7 to Steinbach down in their barn, and that was even like they played in this tiny little barn. Yep. And they had it completely full. Like it was, you wait at the gate to get in, so you don't have actual seats. It's first come first serve. So it's like we're getting there for warm up, and there's already a line of fans like waiting to get in this arena, and about like 3 or 4 people stacked standing behind the glass because it's just seating on one side. And to the point where even when they won, they were banging on the glass so hard, like the glass came out in their end onto the ice just from the fans. Like it was wild.
I've been to Steinbach when it's been full like that, and it is an absolute riot. Like those fans are wild.
Yeah, no, it was fun. It was an absolute blast.
And after your time in Dauphin, and you're kind of figuring out what's next, you managed to go to Mount Royal, alma mater.
Oh yeah,
proud MRU there.
Yeah.
What was the decision to go to Mount Royal? Did you have some other options? What was kind of your process to go to Mount Royal?
Yeah, it was definitely like the schooling, like playing in the Western League. You get a year in tuition and books for every year. So I'm pretty sure I had 3 years of tuition and books, and I knew I wanted to get an education. That was kind of like the plan was, junior A and either get a scholarship, or when I chose to stay and play in Prince Albert, I knew at some point I wanted to go to school and get an education. And I was talking to them and UBC, but UBC, I think, had a few more defensemen at the time, and the coach was kind of going, oh, you might have to come in redshirt. And I went down when I was actually heading home from Manitoba. I swung in and met the coach in Mount Royal and gave me a little tour. And like the facility's great, and obviously the school size, I really like the small school. It's a great learning environment, and I decided to choose there. And at the time too, Calgary was a pretty booming city with oil and everything. And I was like, this is not a bad place to go to school and potentially start a career after.
Well, Mount Royal they were just kind of starting to build themselves when it came to CIS school at the time, CIS. Did it feel like you were kind of there to sort of help build that program into, I guess, what it is today?
Yeah. I mean, my first year would have been their second year at CIS before. I think they're ACAC. So there was definitely a different mix of players, and you could tell they were starting to bring in a little bit higher level of players as they moved to CIS. But the big switch happened my second year when Bert Gilling came in, the coach, and he just completely turned around the program and created an identity and a culture. And it was just always, hard work. We might not, have the players at U of A when they got guys who are like 30, 40 goal scorers sitting up in the stands. and we got, a mix of junior A and EIHL guys. He just said, you know what, his motto was always skate like your hair's on fire. So we always, it was just work your bag off, and, you're going to have an opportunity to win some games. And the first year with him, I think we went like 8-0 to start the year, went out to Lakehead in Ontario and played them and swept them. They were a good team. And it was a really good start. I think our first loss went up to U of A and playing in that little barn there. And I think they beat us like 5-rip or something. But yeah, with him coming in, he completely turned around the program, and it's night and day from my first year to even when I left it.
And just through your time there, and I have a funny thing because in your 4 seasons there, you scored 1 goal. So I have to ask, do you remember the goal?
I gotta think now. Like I scored a couple in the play. Like I know I scored a goal in the playoffs against UFC.
Okay.
In the game 3 of the year. Like if we would have beat them, we would have went to the national tournament. And I think we were down 1, and I remember scoring that goal. But I'm trying to think my first goal. I don't even know if I can remember it, which is funny because I think I got like 6 goals in junior, like 2 dub, 2 junior A, and 2 junior B. So you think a guy would remember all his goals, but I to be honest, I can't even remember. I'd have to, if I knew what game it was, I'd probably be able to put it together. But
well, that's my fault because I didn't search that beforehand. I didn't do my research like a good host.
Yeah.
But through your time at Mount Royal, do you have any memories that stick out? I'm thinking more, first off, I'll ask about the Crowchild Classic. Just how cool is the Crowchild Classic for a player? Because I've seen it as a broadcaster, and it's freaking awesome.
Oh yeah, it's unbelievable. It's that one game a year where you feel like you're in you're playing in an NHL rink. You got, I think our last 2 years I was there, I think it was like 12,000, 13,000 fans or something. So, I mean, that atmosphere, and then you're getting students. You're not getting like the white collar corporations in Calgary at a Flames game in the Lower Bowl. Like you're getting students who are half UFC, half MRU, and it's a big party night too, right? Like I think it's Thursday. They do it on the Thursday, so which is also student night at Cowboys. So it's rowdy. But I mean, when you're standing there, I think, yeah, I definitely started a few of the games, and just that anthem and hearing the fans like cheering and stuff. You get shivers, and it gets you. You got to bring your emotions down, because I know a few of them, like, I'm just going to tear someone's head off for a shift, and you got to be careful, take a penalty.
I don't know if this was a year that you were there, but I distinctly remember, and both Dave Stevens and Colton Waltz both commented on UFC's jerseys one year where they were like mustard yellow, wearing like Barney. Yeah. Was that
Disgusting.
The year you were there?
Disgusting.
Yeah, that color scheme was gross. Like it was like, yeah, that gross yellow, the orange, the red. It was, yeah, like Ronald McDonald style jerseys.
Yeah. Were there chirps going back and forth? Like, I don't know if you like, there's got to be chirps when guys are wearing that.
I definitely know, you obviously have a rival with them. They're just up the Crowchild from you. So, but then again, like you're in Calgary and you're a hockey player, so you there's mix. So we'd see some of the guys out, and like most of the time you get along and enjoy a few beers with them the odd night. But when you're on the ice, it's definitely, you want to beat those guys. But I don't remember ever chirping their jerseys. But I remember, they're ugly jerseys.
Yeah, we've heard before teams be called a Mickey Mouse organization. They're kind of taking that and becoming a Ronald McDonald organization.
Yeah, Ronald McDonald, I guess USports now.
And you spend 4 years at Mount Royal, and then you decide to go to Scotland. Yeah. So not maybe a hockey hotbed, no. But what made you decide to go there?
Well, my mom's from Manchester, so I ended up I have dual citizenship, so I got a passport. And the year before, Cody Cartier was out in Manchester, and there's a few other guys that I knew who had gone over to that league. And to me, it was like, okay, this is a chance to go over to Europe, play somewhere else, kind of, travel a bit and stuff like that. And the coach that he had at Manchester, I was actually going to go to Manchester talking to him, and then he ended up, I can't remember if he got fired or if he quit and then took the job at Dundee and said, you know what, you want to come up to Scotland? And I said, sure. Like, I'll look back on this and I'll probably regret not going to play one more year. So decided to fly out to Scotland.
Did you feel at all kind of during that year that you were kind of in the back nine of the career?
Oh yeah, definitely. I knew, like, just even being at Mount Royal, I was like, okay, I'd like to go play 1 year pro. And then trying to think, I was talking to an East Coast team at the time too. Was it Colorado Eagles or something like that? I can't remember what they're called, but I knew I wanted to go over there, and I kind of just, I had in mind just to play 1 year and then be done with it and then kind of move on and with life sort of thing.
Was there ever any time kind of in that stretch where you had harder time getting the motivation to get to the arena, get through the hard practices, hard games, knowing it was your last kick of the can there?
Not really. I wouldn't say for motivation. I didn't really have a hard time getting up for games. I always enjoy playing. Like I miss it now, definitely. Like especially the physical aspect. Like I go play men's league and stuff here now, but I definitely miss like running into the odd person. And even knowing it's your last year, you're like, this is the last time you're going to be playing like competitive hockey. So I didn't have a hard time getting up.
What was Scotland hockey like?
It was interesting. Like Dundee, I think it was like 40 minutes from St. Andrews. I mean, you're playing in a place where they got rugby, soccer, like those are the big sports. So I mean, it was pretty decent fans there, but it was the same kind of fans. It's like the people who are the diehards. They're waiting after the game to talk. You get to know them pretty good, like the people who come to the games because they're always the same people. But it was definitely fun. Playing out in Scotland. But yeah, a lot of people, I mean, you don't even know, like they don't even know what hockey are, some of the people, right?
So we've heard that like the fans there, at least the diehard ones, are like rabid. They're like soccer fans. Is it true out there in Scotland too?
Yeah, same sort of thing. I mean, they're serving pints at the game and some of those fans get some pints in them and they get, they got chants, goal songs, all that sort of stuff. And I mean, you go play like in that league, there's 4 teams. It's similar to soccer. Like there's teams that have money, and then there's like the lower end teams, which would be the Scottish teams. Because I guess Glasgow's got some money, but it's like Sheffield, Cardiff, the team in Belfast. Like they play in big rinks that are kind of like mini NHL rinks, and they got like big fans. Cardiff, Sheffield, Nottingham. Like they got more than I think like maybe 7,000 people a night. So it's pretty good for that level.
And like when you kind of finished up there, did it kind of feel like, okay, I'm kind of, that I'm glad I did this now, and now it's time to be a working man?
Yeah, no, I was ready for it, and I definitely knew like I was one last kick at it, and I don't think we got into the playoffs. We were close near the end, so there was a good bit of like momentum and excitement around the team trying to get into the playoffs sort of thing, because I don't think they got in the year before. But yeah, no, I was ready. I think when the season ended, I did some traveling, went off to Portugal, pretended I knew how to surf, and then headed back home and started working.
Do you remember your last game?
So yeah, our last game was in Belfast. And I do remember it was a good game. I can't remember if we won or lost, but I just remember because you had to take a ferry over there, and like the ferry is wild. Like you're going through this like little strait, and I'm talking like the boat's going side to side, like plates are falling down. And we had a midday game, so we had a bunch of hours, like a few hours before we had to be at the ferry, and the coach kind of let us go. So we went to some like true Irish bar in right in Belfast with like they got the fiddle out and everyone's got their hats off. You can't wear them in there, and songs are going on, and we had a few drinks. So I definitely remember the last game, and especially after it, it was pretty fun.
Just felt like a true send off, eh?
Yeah, exactly.
And coming back, you decided to play a little bit of senior hockey. I've noticed. Do you just kind of wanted to kind of continue a little bit almost?
So that came about. I came back and I worked in like finance for a bit, didn't really like it, and I went back to construction, and I was working out. I got a job working on the pipeline out in Manning, Alberta. And I remember seeing, they got a senior team, and I went and looked. And at the time, actually, my goalie from Chilliwack, the Bruins, the backup, Braden Gamble, I saw that he was on this team. So I got out there and I went to meet up with him. I went and watched the game. And in this little town, Manning, like they live for hockey. Like I'm talking, everybody in the town is at, the senior game. There's a section full of fans that are just, getting after it and like pretty rowdy. It was pretty fun. So I went and watched the game. I went and talked to them after, and they're like, come right in the room. And then right away you get in the room, they're all like, oh, like you got gear out here. Like, do you want to play? And I was like, oh, I'm working, like 12-hour days, 6 days a week. And They ended up talking me into it. I went and tried on, it like gave me some random gear. And I remember the skates were so old. It was like literally wearing leather boots. Like my ankles are all over the place when I went out to practice, and then got my gear sent up and just decided to join the team. And it was actually a blast. Like it was a lot of fun. And like to the point where like the camp we were staying at was maybe like 30 minutes away, but like, you start telling some of the pipeliners, and next thing you know, like every Friday night, now you got the locals, and then now I got all these guys, all these pipeliners from camp, and they're just wild at the game. So like I'm talking, they come to the games partying, and then after the games we'd have beers in the room, and they're like, oh, bring your buddies in. So now you got a bunch of these crazy pipeliners like partying it up with the hockey players in the room. And it was crazy. Like the first game they all came to, the guy who does all like the liquor sales, so he's like, we sold out of beers in the second period. Like he's like, we've never sold out of alcohol. He's like, you got to let me know if they're going to come to the next game, and like we'll stock up.
Sounds like some true pipeliners, eh? Like just
I don't believe anyone who knows pipeliners at all shocked by that story.
yeah.
It's the narrative.
One other thing that I kind of wanted to ask is, over the years you kind of racked up a lot of penalty minutes throughout your time playing hockey.
Yeah.
A few of those are obviously some fights. Is there a memorable fight that stands out to you?
I'm not too sure. There's probably a couple. Like I for some reason I always ended up biting off something a little bit bigger than I usually could. Like especially in Scotland, I mean, it's a tough league. Like every team has, one, maybe two guys who are, brought over from the AHL. So at the time, I think there was a guy named Jacob Doty who played in the Western League, was a really tough guy, played in the AHL for a while, and then he came over there and he's with Glasgow. And I remember I think I fought him twice over there. But I mean, you play CIS 4 years, you haven't been in a fight, now I'm fighting guys who have like, a few hundred fights in their career, and, a lot in the AHL, which is, there's a lot of tough guys in that league too. But I'd probably say that one. And then a game in OCN was just crazy at that crazy barn up there. And I fought a guy named Roger Taguna at center ice. And I remember it was just wild, like fans. And he came in, like lined up all hands, like hooting and hollering. And I was like, what the hell is going on here? But that's probably one of the more memorable ones as well.
Did you at least win that fight?
I got to think if I won it. I don't know. I'd say probably a tie.
Okay.
A tie or a win. It was a good scrap, yeah.
That's pretty intimidating, right? Like,
oh yeah, definitely, especially in that atmosphere there too.
oh man. So now's kind of the time where we like to ask our guests kind of any stories that kind of come to mind, fun, funny,
career highlights,
just any stories that you think our listeners will enjoy. So we kind of give you the floor here.
Yeah, I gotta think about some hockey ones. There's lots of off ice ones. Some of them I probably shouldn't say, or at least drop any names.
That's fair.
I remember my first year at Mount Royal was interesting, and we had a mix of guys from ACAC who like to get after it, and then I was a young guy, and I remember one of the nights we went out at Cowboys, and I remember a fight started up there, and I ended up getting into a fight with a guy, and like we're going at it, and clocked him pretty good. Anyways, I had like literally blood like covered all over my shirt. I remember them escorting me out of there, and I like didn't have my hat, and they like take you right down through the dance floor, and like literally bouncers everywhere. Everyone's just staring at you. Get outside, and then we had another guy on our team, Galbraith, who was like just an absolute unit of a guy, and he beat the wheels off someone that night too. And then the funniest thing though was later that night we found out we had one of the goalies on the team. I'm not going to mention his name, but he ended up getting into it with the bouncers, and I guess he bit a bouncer, and they sent him, he got banned, and then they sent him in the mail this letter saying that he was banned from Cowboys for 99 years, which was pretty funny. I mean, tough if you're a Calgary kid living there and, Stampede and Cowboys. So I'm not sure if he's appealed to that ban or not.
Wait, he actually bit him?
I don't know if he bit him or if he just went in, maybe his teeth caught him on the shoulder or something. I mean, I don't think he would even really remember if you asked him, but
so it's not like a Mike Tyson type scenario.
No, I don't think he went in and tried to give him the old chunk of the year gone, but something definitely, the bouncer said he bit him. So
Cowboys will bring out the best and the worst in people.
Yeah, no, spent a lot of nights in there for sure.
I love that. Woodsy, do you have any other questions that you want to ask?
Yeah, just we mentioned a little bit earlier. We've had a couple of your teammates at Mount Royal on, Dave Stevens and Colton Waltz. Any stories or memories about those? I'm trying to think the right word to use. We'll say knuckleheads for.
I was going to say hooligans.
Lack of a better word that we can use without bleeping it out.
Yeah.
No, both great guys. Like Waltzy, I think I just had the 1 year with him, and I think he transferred to Nate. I can't remember if he transferred to Nate the next year or if it was my last year. Might have been my last year. But no, he was a beauty. Like just, a good old Alberta style boy, or Saskatchewan, living on the border there.
Yeah.
But no, he was good. And then Davey Stevens is a good buddy of mine. I keep in touch with him. I think he might have already told you guys a story, but I don't know if you guys played it or not. So I probably keep away from
it
again on his interview.
Yeah. But, I think we know that story.
No, they're both beauties. I mean, most of the guys, when you play on that many teams, you get to meet a lot of really good guys, and they're all beauties for the most part. But if there's one guy like I recommend getting on is Mitch Chagnon. He's an absolute character. My first year, he tried out for the team as a forward, as a walk-on, got snipped the next day at practice. Our captain was actually driving the net, and I buried him in practice in my first year, and he landed on our third string goalie, and like tore his ACL, MCL, whatever it was. And I remember the coach coming in like, oh, he's like, we need a third string goalie. Like, does anyone know anyone at the university? Because you can only, when it's that late, you can only pick up someone. And the next day, or someone's like, oh, Mitch, the guy you just cut for forward, plays like men's league goalie. Like, so let's get him out. So the next day he's back wearing the pads, and it was just hilarious because he's just such a good guy to have around. Like the energy and he's got stories for days. But then even the next year, he went and got into shape again and came and tried back out as a walk-on again and made the team as a forward. Actually, I think he played in the Crow Child the 1 year, so he got some games. And then the year after that, he didn't try out, just quit the team. And then they brought him back as the equipment manager because our equipment manager stepped down or whatever. So next thing you know, he went from third string goalie to forward to sharpening the skates for the guys coming on the road. Like, and he was actually incredible, like folding towels, getting the jerseys all hung up. And it was funny because at one point, I can't remember what happened. Assistant coach couldn't come on the road to Saskatchewan to play U of S, one of the away trips. So they brought him out there and they actually put him on the bench as a coach. So to his name, he's like, I play goalie, forward, equipment manager, and he even coached in the CIS. So he's kind of a jack of all trades.
Did he ever actually have to play a game as a goalie, or did he just have to dress maybe a couple times?
Just the third string. He just show up for practice, take breakaways and clappers from the ringette line there at the end of practice. But no,
okay, so never had to dress.
I don't think he backed up. No.
Okay, because guy going men's league to CIS is probably a big jump.
Yeah. Right? Well, he played some junior A. I think he actually played in Steinbach as well. And then he just came out there and was just going to school at Mount Royal and decided to, whatever, I'll go walk on and try out for the team. And that's really a cool aspect too of the university. So even the years when I was there, Bert made sure that was something that we continued to do, was put out an open tryout, and you'd bring a couple of the kids from the university who have maybe played, some junior in their past. And it was actually to the point where I think two guys who came on as walked-ons didn't really play with the team. But then later on down the road in the year when we had injuries, we ended up bringing two of them up. I can't remember the one guy's name, but he actually played, I think he played in the Western League for a bit in junior A and was just kind of going to school, had some injuries, but they ended up playing in a game for us out in UBC, it's pretty funny when you're at that level, when you get to injuries, you can't really call on anyone, right? There's no lower system or farm team, right? They got to be going to university. So it's pretty funny when you're dipping into the student body for players.
Well, I remember when I was going there, it was my last year at Mount Royal. There was a lot of injuries that year. And I think somebody had, there was some random, I think it might've been an equipment manager of some sort, had to dress as a backup goalie. And then you guys had to call on a few guys. And I think there was one night you guys might've dressed like 4 or 5 defensemen and like 11 forwards, right? Like, I don't know but I remember there were a lot of injuries, and like there were times you guys would limp to the rink to like play a game.
Yeah, it's hard at that level because you only have so many guys, and I mean injuries happen at every level. But usually, in like the Western League, you can call up guys from Junior A or your Leicester or a young guy or something. And the same with Junior A, you can call up a kid who can fill a spot. But at that level, it's pretty funny when you're dipping into the students who are right in the midterm. Next thing you know, they're on a flight to UBC to go play.
And usually they haven't played like at a high level in a while, right?
Yeah.
You see, Matty B, that's where you got to get in the coach's ear while you're doing an interview. Like, oh, by the way, you need anyone? I could always come down from the booth.
Playing in the Saturday night rec game if you want to come check me out. The old interview.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I played in intramurals a little bit, so come check me out. I'm just down the road.
Yeah, exactly.
Emerson, man, we appreciate you coming on. This was a lot of fun. We appreciate you just kind of hanging out, telling some stories with us. We appreciate you taking some time out for us. Yeah,
no, thanks for having me. Best of luck to you guys. I mean, this is awesome. There's nothing better than sitting around with a couple buddies and talking sports. So, you guys are living the dream.
We're trying to. So we appreciate this, man. Cheers. And, we'll see you down the road.
Yeah. Best of luck. Take care.